The dark vastness of space filled the main viewing screen on the Vorlaxian battlecruiser. Admiral Zek stood with his forearms clasped behind his back. His large, compound eyes reflected the blue glow of the ship's control panels as he watched. Earth, a small blue marble hanging in the blackness. The planet looked peaceful from this distance, but Zex knew better. The creatures who lived there were dangerous. Is the weapon ready? He asked, his voice a low rumble that made the younger officers twitch their antennae nervously. Yes, Admiral, replied Commander Vril, his second in command. The bomb has been prepared according to your specifications. It contains enough antimatter to destroy their largest continent. Zex nodded slowly. The High Council was clear. These humans are advancing too quickly. In 50 years, they might be able to challenge us. We cannot allow that to happen. The Vorlaxians had ruled this section of the galaxy for 10,000 years. They had a simple policy for dealing with emerging intelligent species. Observe from a distance, and if they showed too much potential, eliminate them before they became a threat. Earth had been on their watch list for centuries, but in the last 100 years, humans had progressed from primitive combustion engines to basic space travel. The trend was concerning. Launch the weapon, Zex ordered. Set impact for their most populated continent. The ship shuddered slightly as the weapon launched. A small, sleek object about the size of a human car streaked toward the blue planet. The bomb would take approximately 24 Earth hours to reach its target. Our work here is done, Zex said. Set course for home. We will return in 1 month to confirm the success of our mission. As the Vorlaxian ship turned away, none of them noticed the small Earth satellite that had quietly recorded the launch. In a small, cluttered office at NASA's Deep Space Monitoring Station in Arizona, Joe Miller sat with his feet propped up on his desk, eating a sandwich and watching his monitors without much interest. At 32, Joe was good at his job but found the night shift boring. Nothing exciting ever happened during his watch. That changed when one of his screens began to flash red. Joe nearly choked on his sandwich as he sat up straight and stared at the data streaming across his screen. What the hell? He muttered, typing quickly to verify what he was seeing. The system had detected an object launched from what appeared to be a large vessel at the edge of Earth's solar system. The object was now moving directly toward Earth at incredible speed. Joe grabbed his phone and dialed his supervisor, Dr. Karen Lewis. Dr. Lewis, you need to come in right now, he said when she answered. Something just launched a projectile at Earth. Is this a joke, Miller? Karen's voice was thick with sleep. No, ma'am, I'm sending the data to your phone now. This is real. Within an hour, the monitoring station was filled with scientists and military personnel. Karen Lewis stood at the center of the room, her face pale as she looked at the updated projections. Based on its trajectory and speed, it will hit somewhere in North America in approximately 23 hours, she announced, and the radiation signature suggests it contains antimatter. A tall man in an Air Force uniform stepped forward. An antimatter bomb? General Scott asked. Are you certain? Karen nodded. As certain as we can be with the data we have. If I'm right, this could devastate the entire continent. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. They were facing an alien attack. I need to inform the President, General Scott said grimly. President Ellen Gray sat in the Situation Room, surrounded by her top military and scientific advisors. At 55, she had faced many crises during her time in office, but nothing like this. So you're telling me that aliens have launched a bomb at us? She asked, her voice steady despite the fear she felt. Yes, Madam President, General Scott replied. Dr. Lewis and her team have confirmed it. The weapon will hit somewhere in the central United States in approximately 18 hours. Can we shoot it down? She asked. Dr. Peter Young, the nation's top physicist, shook his head. Not with our current technology. The object is moving too fast and is too small to target effectively. And even if we could hit it, the antimatter would likely be released, causing a catastrophic explosion. Then what options do we have? The president demanded. A woman in her early 40s with short brown hair and intense eyes spoke up. We might be able to catch it. All eyes turned to Dr. Samantha Reed, the head of a secretive government research division. Explain, the president said. For the past 15 years, my team has been developing experimental gravity manipulation technology. Samantha explained. It was originally intended for future space travel, but we might be able to use it to create a containment field that could safely slow and capture the bomb. Has this technology ever been tested on something like this? General Scott asked. Skeptically, no, Samantha admitted. But it's the only chance we have. The president was quiet for a moment, weighing the options. Do it, she finally said, and God help us all. The next 12 hours were a blur of activity. Samantha's team worked frantically to modify their gravity manipulation devices while military personnel transported the equipment to a remote area in Kansas, calculated to be near the bomb's impact point. News of the impending attack had been kept from the public to prevent panic, but rumors were beginning to spread. The sudden movement of military assets hadn't gone unnoticed. As the clock ticked down, Samantha stood in a hastily constructed control center surrounded by banks of computers and nervous technicians. 3 large gravity generators had been positioned in a triangle pattern across several miles. The bomb will enter our atmosphere in 5 minutes, announced one of the technicians. Samantha took a deep breath. Power up the generators. The air seemed to ripple as the gravity generators came online. On their screens, they could see the bomb, now visible as a small, bright dot streaking through the upper atmosphere. It's working, someone shouted as the dot began to slow. The gravity field is catching it. The bomb continued to slow until it hovered, suspended in midair about 1,000 feet above the ground. Samantha allowed herself a small smile of relief. Phase 1 complete, she said into her radio. The bomb is contained, bringing it down now. Slowly, carefully, they lowered the alien weapon to the ground. As soon as it touched down, teams in protective suits rushed forward. What now? Asked President Gray over the secure video link. Samantha's eyes gleamed with determination. Now, Madam President, we learn everything we can about this technology, and then we send it back to them with a message. What kind of message? The President asked. The kind they won't forget, Samantha replied. We're going to show them that humans aren't as helpless as they thought. We're going to improve their bomb and return it to sender. A large white tent now covered the alien bomb. Inside, scientists in protective suits moved carefully around the sleek, oval-shaped device. It was surprisingly small for something so deadly, about the size of a car. Its surface was a dark metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. There were no visible controls or seams. Dr. Samantha Reed stood at a monitoring station, watching as scanners gathered data about the weapon. She had not slept in 36 hours, but her eyes were alert and focused. What have we learned? Asked General Scott, who had just arrived from Washington. It's definitely an antimatter bomb, Samantha replied, and the most advanced technology we've ever seen. The casing is made of an unknown metal alloy that's stronger than anything we have on Earth. Inside, there's a containment field holding about 2 pounds of antimatter, the general whistled softly. That would be enough to destroy most of North America, Samantha finished for him. Yes, can we disarm it? Samantha smiled slightly. We've already done more than that. We've figured out how it works. She led him to a large table where parts of the bomb had been carefully arranged. A team of engineers was studying each component. We've been working around the clock in shifts, she explained. These aliens, whoever they are, think differently than we do. Their technology is more advanced, but also more predictable. They build things to serve one purpose perfectly, but they don't seem to consider alternative applications. What does that mean for us? The general asked. It means we cannot only disarm their bomb, but we can improve it, Samantha said with a gleam in her eye. And then we're going to send it back to them. The general looked skeptical. How? We don't even know where they came from. Actually, we do, Samantha said. The bomb's guidance system stored its launch coordinates. We know exactly where their ship was when they fired it. She pointed to a star map displayed on a nearby screen. They're about 2 light weeks away from our solar system now, but they're moving slowly. If we use the same gravity technology that caught the bomb to propel it back, we can catch up to them." "And then what?" the general asked. "We blow them up?" Samantha shook her head. "No, we send them a message." In a secure room adjacent to the main tent, a different team of scientists and engineers was gathered. This group was working on modifying the alien bomb. The leader of this team was Dr. Paul Wilson, a brilliant weapons designer who had been recruited from a top-secret military research facility. "The antimatter containment field is ingenious," he said, pointing to holographic diagrams floating above the work table. "But it's inefficient. We can improve the stability by at least 30% with some adjustments to the field geometry." Next to him, Dr. Lily Chun, an expert in quantum physics, nodded in agreement. "And if we reconfigure the trigger mechanism, we can make it more precise. Right now, it's designed for maximum destruction. We can modify it to allow for controlled releases of energy." Paul looked at her with raised eyebrows. "You mean turn it into something other than a bomb?" "Exactly," Lily said. "With these modifications, it could be used as a power source or a cutting tool, or yes, still as a weapon if necessary, but one with surgical precision instead of indiscriminate destruction." Around the table, the other scientists and engineers were making notes and suggesting additional improvements. The mood in the room was focused but excited. They were not just playing defense anymore. They were showing what humans could do. President Ellen Gray sat in the Oval Office, listening to Dr. Samantha Reed explain their plan via secure video link. "Let me make sure I understand," the president said. "You want to improve the alien bomb and send it back to them?" "Yes, Madam President," Samantha replied. "But not as an act of aggression." "As a demonstration?" "A demonstration of what, exactly?" "Of human ingenuity," Samantha said. "These aliens clearly see us as a potential threat, but one they can easily eliminate. They don't respect us. We need to show them that was a mistake." The president was quiet for a moment, thinking. "And the modifications you're making, they'll understand them?" "They should. We're improving the efficiency, stability, and versatility of their own technology. It would be like if someone took a knife you made and turned it into a multi-tool that could still be a knife, but could also be 100 other useful things. The message will be clear. Humans don't just destroy, we create, we improve. We see possibilities where others see only one path." "And if they don't get the message?" the president asked. "If they see this as an act of war?" "They already declared war when they launched that bomb at us," General Scott said from beside Samantha. "This gives us a chance to respond without escalating further." The president nodded slowly. "How long until you're ready to launch?" 3 days, Samantha replied. "We need to finish the modifications and set up the gravity propulsion system." "Do it," the president said after a moment of consideration. "But I want a full report on all modifications, and include a clear message with the return package. If these aliens can travel through space and build antimatter bombs, they can probably understand our language." "Already working on it, Madam President," Samantha assured her. Joe Miller sat at his usual desk at the NASA Deep Space Monitoring Station, but nothing was usual anymore. His discovery of the alien bomb had changed everything. Now he was part of the team tracking the alien ship as it moved slowly away from our solar system. "Any change in their course?" asked Karen Lewis, who now rarely left the monitoring station. "No, ma'am," Joe replied. "They're continuing on the same heading at the same speed. They have no idea what's coming." Karen nodded and looked at the large countdown clock on the wall. It showed 48 hours until the launch of what they were now calling the return package. "Do you think this will work?" Joe asked quietly. "Sending back their bomb with improvements? What if it just makes them angrier?" Karen considered this for a moment. "Maybe it will, but it's better than doing nothing, and who knows? Maybe they'll be impressed. I know I would be." Joe smiled slightly. "Yeah, me too. It's pretty amazing what the team has done with that bomb." "That's humanity for you," Karen said. "Give us a problem, and we'll find a solution. Usually one nobody else thought of." Joe turned back to his monitors, feeling a mixture of pride and anxiety. In 2 days, they would be sending a message to the stars. He just hoped it would be understood. In the main tent, Samantha stood watching as the modified bomb was carefully loaded into a specially designed launch vehicle. The alien weapon now looked quite different. Its dark surface was partially covered with new components, and a small but powerful transmitter had been attached to one end. "Is it ready?" she asked Paul and Lily, who were making final adjustments. "Just about," Paul replied. "We've improved the antimatter containment efficiency by 40%, more than we initially estimated. The precision control systems are installed and functioning perfectly. And we've added the data package," Lily added. "Everything from basic human language primers to advanced physics texts, plus the message approved by the president." Samantha nodded with satisfaction. "Good, in 24 hours we launch. Let's show these aliens exactly who they're dealing with." The modified alien bomb sat on the launch platform, ready for its journey back to its makers. The sky above was clear and blue. Around the launch site, hundreds of people worked at computer stations under large tents. Some monitored the weather, others checked the gravity propulsion system, and many watched the alien ship that was still moving away from Earth. Samantha Reed stood next to President Ellen Gray, who had flown in for the launch. "This was too important for the president to watch from Washington. Are we sure this will work?" President Gray asked quietly. "The gravity propulsion system has been tested extensively over the past 3 days," Samantha replied. "We're confident. It can accelerate the package fast enough to catch up with the alien ship." General Scott joined them, holding a tablet with the latest updates. "All systems are green, Madam President. We're ready to launch on your command." President Gray took a deep breath and nodded. "Proceed," General Scott spoke into his radio. "Control? This is General Scott. You have presidential authorization. Begin launch sequence." Inside the main control tent, Paul Wilson and Lily Chun sat at the primary control station. They had worked on the bomb modifications and now would oversee its launch. Paul typed a series of commands and the countdown appeared on all screens. "Launch sequence initiated," he announced, to -5 minutes. Around them, technicians called out status reports from different systems. Gravity generators at full power, guidance systems locked on target coordinates, weather conditions optimal. Return package secured and stable. The 5 minutes passed quickly. When the countdown reached 0, Paul pressed a final button. Launch! There was no dramatic blast like a rocket launch. Instead, the air around the launch platform seemed to ripple and bend. The modified bomb rose slowly at first, then faster and faster as the gravity generators created a corridor of warped space in front of it. Within seconds, it was just a bright dot in the sky, and then it was gone. A cheer went up from everyone. At the site, they had done it. The return package was on its way. "How long until it reaches the alien ship?" President Gray asked. "About 4 days," Samantha replied. "We're sending it much faster than they sent their bomb to us." The president nodded. "Now we wait." 4 days later, the NASA Deep Space Monitoring Station was crowded with officials. Joe Miller sat at his usual station, but now he was surrounded by military officers, government officials, and scientists. Everyone was waiting for the moment when the return package would reach the alien ship. "Package will intercept the alien vessel in approximately 3 minutes, Joe announced. Corinne Lewis stood nearby, watching the tracking screens. "The aliens haven't changed course or speed. They don't seem to have detected our package yet." "That's by design," Lily Chun explained. "We modified their stealth technology to make it even more effective. They won't detect it until it's right next to their ship." The room fell silent as they watched the tracking screens. The small dot representing the return package moved steadily closer to the larger dot that was the alien ship. 30 seconds to intercept, Joe said. Everyone held their breath. 10 seconds, ... intercept. On the screen, the small dot merged with the larger one. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then the alien ship suddenly slowed. "They've detected it," General Scott said. "The package transmitter is active," Joe reported. "It's sending the message and data we included." Now they could only wait and... See how the aliens would respond aboard the Vorlaxian battlecruiser? Admiral Zex was in his private quarters when the alarm sounded. He rushed to the bridge where chaos reigned. "Report," he demanded. Commander Vril turned to him, his compound eyes wide with surprise. "Admiral, the weapon we launched at Earth." "It's here. Impossible," Zex said. "The weapon should have detonated on the target planet days ago." "It's definitely our weapon," Vril insisted. "But it's been changed." Zex moved to the main scanner station. The screen showed their antimatter bomb floating just 10 ship lengths away from their vessel. But it looked different. New components had been added to its surface, and it was transmitting a signal directly to their ship. "What is it transmitting?" Zex asked. The communications officer worked quickly at his station. "It appears to be language data, Admiral. The humans are trying to communicate with us. There's also technical information, specifications about the changes they made to our weapon." Zex's antennae twitched in disbelief. "They captured our weapon, modified it, and sent it back to us? How is that possible? Their technology should be centuries behind ours." The ship's chief engineer studied the incoming data with growing astonishment. "Admiral, these modifications, they're brilliant. They've improved the antimatter containment efficiency by 40%. They've added precision control systems that would allow for targeted energy release rather than just total detonation. They've essentially turned our planet killer into a multi-purpose tool." Zex stared at the screens in silence. This was unprecedented. In all the history of the Vorlaxian Empire, no species had ever returned fire in this manner. They had either been destroyed or had fought back with their own weapons. None had ever taken Vorlaxian technology and improved it. "There's a direct message included in the transmission," the communications officer said. "It's been translated into mathematical formulas that cross language barriers." "Display it," Zex ordered. The message appeared on the main screen. "We received your weapon. We studied it. We improved it. We returned it. We are humanity. We do not seek conflict, but we will not be eliminated. If you wish to communicate, we are ready. If you wish to threaten us again, be warned. This is how we respond to threats." The bridge was silent as the Vorlaxians absorbed this message. "What are your orders, Admiral?" Vril finally asked. Zex single quotes S mind raced with possibilities. The High Council had ordered Earth's destruction because they feared the potential of humans as a future threat. But this response revealed that humans were already more dangerous and more ingenious than they had anticipated. Yet they had not used the weapon against the Vorlaxians when they clearly could have. "Send a message to the High Council," Zex decided. "Tell them we have encountered something unprecedented. The humans have returned our weapon with improvements. They did not destroy us when they could have. I am recommending immediate diplomatic contact rather than military action." "Diplomatic contact?" Vril sounded shocked. "With a primitive species?" Zex looked at the modified bomb on the screen. "They are clearly not as primitive as we thought. And any species that can take a weapon meant to destroy them and turn it into something better is a species we should talk to, not fight." He turned to the communications officer. "Prepare a response to the humans. Tell them we received their message. And request further communication." For the first time in the 10,000-year history of the Vorlaxian Empire, they would attempt diplomacy before conquest. All because humans had returned a bomb with improvements. At the NASA Deep Space Monitoring Station, excitement spread through the room as data began streaming in from the aliens. Joe Miller could hardly believe what he was seeing. "They're responding," he called out, his fingers flying over his keyboard. "They're sending us a message." Karen Lewis rushed to his side, followed by General Scott and several other officials. "What does it say?" she asked. "It's coming through now," Joe replied. "They're using the same mathematical translation format we sent them." The message appeared. On the main screen, translated into English, "Message received. We acknowledge your technological achievement. Request direct communication. We are the Vorlaxians. We wish to understand." The room erupted in cheers and gasps. After centuries of wondering if we were alone in the universe, humanity now had definitive contact with an alien civilization. President Gray, who had remained at the facility, stepped forward. Send them our response. Tell them we accept their request for communication. Samantha Red, who had been analyzing the alien data, looked up with excitement in her eyes. Madam President, there's more. They've included technical specifications about their ship's communication systems. I think they're telling us how to establish a real-time link. Can we do that? The President asked. Samantha nodded. With what they've given us, yes. We'll need to modify some of our satellite arrays, but we could have a direct communication link within 48 hours. Make it happen, President Gray ordered. 2 days later, a makeshift communication center had been set up at the facility. The world's best linguists, diplomats, and scientists had gathered to prepare for the first real-time conversation with the VORLAXIANS. Samantha, Paul, and Lily had worked non-stop to establish the communication link using the technical specifications provided by the aliens. A large screen dominated the front of the room, currently showing only static. President Gray sat at the center of a long table, flanked by her advisors. Are we ready? She asked. Yes, Madam President, Samantha replied. The link is active. We're just waiting for them to connect on their end. They didn't have to wait long. The static on the screen suddenly cleared, revealing the bridge of the alien ship. Standing in the center was a tall, insect-like creature with 4 arms and large compound eyes. Its exoskeleton was a deep blue-green color that seemed to shimmer under the lights. I am Admiral Zex of the Vorlaxian Empire, the alien said, its words translated by the system they had established. I speak with the authority of the High Council. President Gray stood. I am President Ellen Gray of the United States of America. Currently speaking on behalf of Earth, we welcome this opportunity for communication. The alien's antennae twitched slightly. We are surprised by your response to our weapon. No species has ever returned our technology with improvements. That's how humans respond to challenges, President Gray said. We learn, we adapt, we improve. Yes, we have observed this quality, Zex replied. It is why we initially saw your species as a potential threat. Your rate of technological advancement is unusually rapid. There was a moment of tension in the room. The alien had just admitted they had seen humanity as a threat to be eliminated. And now? President Gray asked carefully. How do you see us now? Zex's compound eyes seemed to study her for a moment. Now, we see you as a species worthy of direct communication rather than elimination. Your response was ... unexpected, intelligent. You could have attempted to use our weapon against us, but you chose a different path. We prefer to make friends rather than enemies, President Gray said. Though we will defend ourselves if necessary. That has become clear, Zex acknowledged. The High Council has advised me to propose a formal diplomatic exchange. We wish to learn more about humans. Murmurs of excitement spread through the room. This was more than anyone had hoped for. We accept your proposal, President Gray said without hesitation. We also wish to learn about the Vorlaxians. Then it is agreed, Zex said. We will send coordinates for a neutral meeting location. Our delegates can meet there in one of your Earth months. We look forward to it, President Gray replied. The communication ended and the screen went dark. For a moment the room was silent and then erupted into applause and excited conversation. We did it, Samantha said, hardly believing what had just happened. First contact, real peaceful first contact. Oh, because we returned their bomb with improvements, Paul added with a smile. General Scott shook his head in amazement. When I joined the military, I never imagined I'd see the day we'd be arranging diplomatic meetings with aliens. President Gray called for quiet. This is just the beginning, she said. We have a lot of work to do before this meeting. We need to select our diplomatic team, prepare our approach, and decide what information we're willing to share. And what questions we want to ask, Lily added. Exactly, the President agreed. Dr. Reed, I want you to lead the scientific portion of our delegation. Your team's work with their technology is what got us here, Samantha nodded, feeling both honored and overwhelmed. Yes, Madam President. For now, this contact remains classified, President Gray continued. We'll inform the United Nations Security Council and key allies, but we need time to prepare before making a public announcement. As the meeting broke up into smaller groups discussing next steps, Joe Miller sat quietly at his monitoring station. He had been the first to detect the alien bomb, setting this whole chain of events in motion. Now he watched as humanity prepared to take its first steps into a larger universe. Karen Lewis sat down beside him. Quite a change from your boring night shifts, huh? She said with a smile. Joe laughed. Just a bit. I was hoping for some excitement, but this is way beyond what I expected. You know what amazes me the most? Karen said. That we turned a weapon of mass destruction into a door opening to the stars. Joe nodded. That's humanity for you. Give us a problem, and we'll find a solution nobody expected. Aboard the Vorlaxian ship, Admiral Zex faced a communication screen showing the 5 members of the High Council. They had listened to his report about the contact with humans. This is unprecedented, said the eldest council member, her antennae twitching with concern. No species has ever responded as these humans have, which is precisely why they are worth talking to, Zex argued. They think differently than we do. They saw possibilities in our weapon that we never considered. Or perhaps this is a trap, suggested another council member. A clever way to lower our defenses, Zex shook his head. They could have used our weapon against us. They chose not to. That shows restraint and intelligence. After a long discussion, the council reached a decision. You may proceed with the diplomatic meeting, the eldest said. But be cautious, Admiral. These humans are unpredictable. Yes, Zex agreed. That is what makes them interesting. As the communication ended, Zex looked out at the stars. For the first time in his long career, he felt something new. Curiosity about another species, rather than just strategic assessment. These humans had surprised him. He wondered what other surprises they might have in store. 1 month later, a small Earth ship approached the coordinates provided by the Vorlaxians. The neutral meeting place was a space station orbiting a lifeless moon in a nearby star system. The station had been built by the Vorlaxians specifically. For this meeting, inside the Earthship, Samantha Reed looked out the viewport at the approaching station. It was enormous, shaped like a giant ring with spokes connecting to a central hub. The structure gleamed silver against the blackness of space. It's beautiful, she said. Beside her stood President Gray, who had insisted on leading the delegation herself. Yes, it is, she agreed. And to think a month ago we didn't even know aliens existed, let alone that we'd be visiting their space station. The Earth delegation consisted of 20 people, diplomats, scientists, linguists, and a small security team. They had spent the past month preparing intensively for this meeting, learning everything they could from the data the Vorlaxians had shared. We're receiving docking instructions, announced the ship's captain. They're guiding us in now. Everyone felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness as their ship smoothly entered a large docking bay in the central hub of the station. Through the viewports, they could see several Vorlaxians waiting in an area beyond the airlock. Ready? President Gray asked Samantha. Samantha nodded. As ready as I'll ever be. The Earth delegation gathered their equipment and prepared to disembark. Tests had confirmed that the atmosphere in the station was safe for humans, though slightly richer in oxygen than Earth's dot as the airlock doors opened. President Gray led the way, followed by Samantha and the others. They stepped onto the station and faced the Vorlaxians for the first time in person. Admiral Zex stepped forward. He was taller than he had appeared on the screen, standing nearly 7 feet high. His blue-green exoskeleton shimmered under the lights. President Gray, he said, his words translated by devices both groups wore. Welcome to the meeting place. We are honored by your presence. Admiral Zex, President Gray replied with a slight bow. Thank you for arranging this historic meeting. We come in peace and friendship. Please follow me, Zex said, gesturing with one of his forearms. We have prepared meeting rooms and living quarters for your comfort. As they walked through the station, the humans looked around in wonder. The architecture was elegant and precise, with curved walls and high ceilings. Other Vorlaxians they passed stopped to watch the humans with obvious curiosity. "Your station is impressive," Samantha said to Zex. "Thank you, Dr. Reed," he replied. "We constructed it in the past month specifically for this meeting." Samantha nearly stopped walking in surprise. "You built this entire station in just 1 month?" Zex's antennae twitched in what they had learned was the Vorlaxian equivalent of a smile. "Yes, when the High Council commits to a project, we move quickly." The implications of this casual statement were staggering. If the Vorlaxians could build a space station this size in a month, their technological capabilities were far beyond what the humans had imagined. They arrived at a large circular room with a ring-shaped table in the center. The Vorlaxian delegation took seats on one side and the humans on the other. "Before we begin formal discussions," Zex said, "I would like to return something to you." He made a gesture, and another Vorlaxian brought forward a familiar object, the modified bomb that Earth had sent back to them. "We have studied your improvements carefully," Zex continued. "Your innovations were ... impressive. We would like to offer this back to you as a gesture of goodwill." President Gray looked surprised. "That's very generous, Admiral, but may I ask why?" "Because it represents the beginning of our relationship," Zex explained. "And because the technology you added is rightfully yours. We believe in acknowledging innovation." Samantha studied the bomb and noticed it had been further modified. "You've made changes of your own," she observed. "Yes," Zex confirmed. "We built upon your improvements. It is now what you might call a technology exchange." "The first of many, we hope," President Gray nodded. "We accept your gift in the spirit it is offered, and we look forward to learning from each other." The formal meetings began, with both sides sharing information about their civilizations, histories, and technologies. The humans were amazed to learn that the Vorlaxian Empire spanned dozens of star systems and had existed for over 10,000 years. "If your civilization is so advanced," one of the human diplomats asked, "why did you see us as a threat?" "We've barely left our own planet." Zex's compound eyes seemed to darken slightly. "Because of your rate of advancement. We have observed many emerging intelligent species. Most take thousands of years to develop the technologies you achieved in just a few centuries. Your potential is ... extraordinary." "And concerning," Samantha suggested. "It was," Zex admitted, "until we saw how you responded to our weapon. That revealed something about humans that changed our assessment." "What was that?" President Gray asked. "Creativity," Zex replied. "Vorlaxians excel at perfecting existing technologies, at building and expanding, but humans ... you see possibilities we miss. You take a weapon and find ways to make it more than a weapon. That kind of thinking is rare in the galaxy." The meetings continued for several days. Both sides shared scientific knowledge, cultural information, and began discussing possible trade agreements. The humans were careful not to seem too eager about advanced Vorlaxian technology, while the Vorlaxians seemed genuinely interested in human art, music, and literature. On the final day, President Gray and Admiral Zex signed a preliminary friendship treaty between Earth and the Vorlaxian Empire. "This is just the beginning," President Gray said during the ceremony. "Today we take our first steps into a larger universe, not as conquerors or victims, but as partners and friends." "Indeed," Zex agreed. "From an act of aggression has come understanding. Perhaps that is the greatest improvement of all." Later, as the Earth delegation prepared to return home, Samantha found herself standing with Zex in an observation lounge, looking out at the stars. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now both our peoples begin a journey together," Zex replied. "The High Council has already approved the establishment of an embassy on Earth, and we would welcome a human embassy in our home system." "And the bomb?" Samantha asked. "The one that started all this?" "It will be displayed in a museum," Zex said, "as a reminder that sometimes the greatest discoveries come from unexpected places." As the Earth ship departed the station the next day, carrying news that would forever change human history, Samantha looked back at the gleaming structure that represented humanity's first step into galactic civilization, all because humans had taken a weapon meant to destroy them and returned it with improvements. It was, she thought, the most human thing imaginable. And it had opened the stars to them,